What's going on, everyone? I'm finally back and I'm here to give my review on Avatar: The Way of Water. So I just got done watching the new Avatar movie and I've seen it twice. I've seen it the first time in IMAX 3D and then I got to see it a second time at The View, which is a UK cinema. It was a lot smaller than the IMAX, like way small. It was a completely different type of experience, which I'll go into both in a moment. But just to show you how much I enjoyed this film, I've just bought tickets to go see it a third time and I'm planning to go see it for the fourth time because, yeah, I obviously love this. I can't believe it's finally here. I feel like I've been waiting forever for this film to come out. I didn't even think that it was going to happen for years, but now it's finally here. I can just say that I'm so happy that James Cameron's just spent so much time developing all the technology, the 3D cameras, the motion capture for underwater, because after watching this movie, I don't remember ever coming out of a cinema and spending so much time afterwards thinking about a movie like I have with Avatar: The Way of Water. I just can't stop thinking about it. It's just been such an amazing experience to see this twice already, and I actually can't wait to see it again. I feel like the second time I watched it, I understood certain things a lot better. There were certain things that I definitely missed the first time watching it because you're so overwhelmed by the visuals and just how amazing this looks, especially when it's in 3D. If you haven't seen this movie yet, then what are you doing? Go to the cinema, get yourself a ticket, but make sure it's in 3D. I know 3D has a lot of stake and a lot of people don't like 3D. To be fair, 3D's never really been that good. The only good time before this was the first Avatar. But I was so young then, I don't really remember like my experience so well in the cinema. But I remember the 3D really did stand out. This time, wow, like this film has to be seen in 3D. It genuinely does create a way more immersive experience. Like the 3D really is like unbelievable in this. James Cameron did create 3D cameras specifically to make the 3D good. So it's not just like you're watching a normal film that's just been put into 3D. It is so good how immersive the world is. Like when you're in a jungle, for example, or like the trees and the vines and the plants, like when the camera's moving through, it really feels like they're in the cinema with you. I felt like I was genuinely going through like a forest or a jungle or whatever environment it was, and especially when you get to the underwater scenes and there's all the little different fish and different sea life going on, it really felt like they were, well, first of all, in the IMAX, the first experience I had was by far better than it was when I seen The View. The 3D was still amazing in The View, like this 3D was still as good, but because the screen in the IMAX was so huge and you're so close to it, the IMAX here, the main one, is the biggest screen in Europe. It's huge. It's like a building. So the 3D really felt like each creature and plant or whatever that was in your face felt like it was really in the cinema. It felt like you could just move your hands and move them away. It really did feel like that good. Of course, we'll just get out of the way. The visuals in this were just beyond good. Like, it's better than anything I've ever seen. Like, I've seen some amazing CGI before and visual effects, like the Lord of the Rings when that first came out. That was just unbelievable and groundbreaking, just how good the visuals are. I've rewatched them all again. The visuals still are better than most stuff we've seen. Then we got like Thanos and the Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. Like, them effects were up there with some of the best ones I think that I've seen as well, but nothing at all compares to Avatar: The Way of Water. Like, nothing looks as good as this. And of course, it's Weta again. Weta are the visual effects team behind all of the Lord of the Rings and Avatar, and they are by far the best in my opinion. I haven't seen anyone create visuals as good and as realistic as what Weta does, and once again they've just blown it out the water with this, because it's crazy how the characters in the world of Pandora looks like it's real. It genuinely, the only way I can describe what it felt like there really is a planet called Pandora, and there really is Na'vi people, and there's a cameraman that's gone down to this planet and just started filming this family and this world and this war and everything, and it feels like you're really watching these characters for real. It doesn't feel like you're watching a CG character. I mean, of course you can tell because it's not real, but it really is. That's the best way I can describe it. It genuinely is so impressive, and yeah, I was blown away all the way through this. Now, I will say that the story isn't as strong as the first one, because I know the first film has, the story's been done many times before. A lot of people complain about this. I don't find it a problem at all because I love the story. I think it's a great story, and I feel like Avatar's done it in its own way, its own unique style, but I know it's been done before in Fern Gully, Dancing with Wolves, and so on. There is other things, but they're like the main ones that people always bring up, and people seem to like find that a negative. I don't at all. I mean, we've seen so many films that has the same story over and over again, and it doesn't really matter to me as long as it's done in its own unique way and has its own like spin on it. And Avatar for me was so unique, and it's such a beautiful story. And also the original story, it was like a lot more of a love story. I loved first of all, in the first movie, I loved the whole introduction to going to this whole new planet, to meeting these new creatures, the new characters, the world, the whole feeling of that whole new landing on a new planet, and Jake having to step into an avatar body and him getting used to that. And it's such an alien-like film. Everything's just completely alien, and I love that. And I feel like that's what the first film had that was very special. In this film, you don't really get that because you just planted straight into Pandora. You're not really introduced to that world again because we're already familiar with it, so they don't need to do that again. But they do it in a different way, where you get introduced to a whole new part of the planet. You get introduced to the Metakaina clan, who are the sea clan, or the sea people, or the water clan. They are a whole new clan that we've never been introduced to before. So this film kind of does introduce you into a whole different part of Pandora and a whole different species that's living there, and of course shitloads of different creatures and sea life, and there's just so much that's in this film. It kind of is overwhelming, and it's a lot to take in, but yeah, I felt like it did a good enough job to sort of keep you excited to find new stuff in Pandora, and to put you in a new part of the planet, and it's for it to feel new and not just like you've seen it all before. But going back to the story, I feel like the original story felt a little bit more stronger for me. This one focuses on family. Jake and neytiri have now got, I think, 5 kids. Some of their kids, some are like adopted, and yeah, it's like they've got a family, and this whole film focuses on the family's survival struggles and parents trying to protect their family. But of course, we're introduced to all the new kids, and I loved all these new characters. I thought they were great. Again, I do think that this film could have spent a bit more time introducing you to each character and spending a bit more time with certain characters. Some of them, they do a lot more than others. It feels like some of the characters are way more focused on than other ones, but there is certain family members, like some of the kids, that I do find really interesting, and I would have liked to have seen a bit more of them and for them to be a bit more explored, rather than, you know, you get introduced to them, you get a little bit of information of what their lives are or who they are as a I was going to say a person, but they're not a person, are they really? But you know what I mean. For example, Kiri is one of their new children. I think she's like adopted because she is the daughter of Grace. Grace was Sigourney Weaver in the previous film, and she has certain abilities that I won't spoil, but she connects to wAFF, which wAFF is the spirit of, like, the Mother Earth of Pandora. It's called wAFF. And Kiri has this really strong bond and connection to wAFF, and I feel like they could have done more to help you understand how and why. Again, I feel like each time I've seen this, I've come to understand things a bit better. The first time I was a little bit just like, whoa, wow, this is amazing. The second time I was trying to really focus more on like the story rather than the 3D and the visuals. But I think maybe the third time I see it, I'll understand more. But I definitely feel like even after the second viewing that they kind of skipped ahead past stuff where I feel like it would have served the film better if they spent more time explaining certain characters and how they are there. There's certain characters that are back and they're still alive in a sense. Like we have General Quarrich, who obviously died in the last film. Stephen Lang's character Quarrich, he died in the last movie, but he's back in this film, but now he is an avatar. And it does touch on how that happened and why, but it is very, very brief. And I don't know, I feel like it would have been a little bit better if they just spent a bit more time developing these character stories, and yeah, just to give you a bit more understanding as to how and why and what's going on. The first part of this movie does feel rushed as well. Like, it feels like it's just getting you up to speed of where the family is now with Jake and neytiri and all the family. It kind of goes past 10 years so fast in the first intro. It's been 10 years since the last Avatar movie. in the world of Avatar. So now, like, it just tries to get you caught up with everything that's been going on. And there's been so much going on. There's so many wars and big battles, and you know, the humans are back, or they're still really here, but they're here for a different reason this time, which I'll go through in a second. But I do feel like, again, it could have spent a bit more time, especially with the runtime. It's like 3 hours and 15 minutes or something. I feel like it would have served the film better if they just spent a little bit more time in the beginning, just getting you up to speed and not rushing through it so much. But it wasn't that fast to the point where you didn't understand it. It explains it enough, but I feel like, you know, the first movie really takes its time for you to be introduced to the world of Pandora and to really settle you into this new alien planet, where this film, it's like everything's happening dead fast. These things have been going on in the last 10 years, and now we're suddenly back to the present day. And yeah, I just would appreciate it if they spent a little bit longer, but I imagine that'll be more sort of flushed out in the extended edition on Blu-ray, which I'm definitely getting. The action in this is just amazing. The action's so good in this. James Cameron just knows how to do action so well. There's some really, really intense moments. There's a moment towards like the last hour where like there's just a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of lives at risk, and you feel for them. You really feel like, oh my god, this could end bad for like everyone here, or certain characters that you really don't want to see die or hurt in any way, but you really are like on the edge of your seat thinking, oh my god, like this doesn't look good at all. And I really did like that. Some of the action in this, actually all the action is so good. It's just so well made. The cinematography, the direction, just everything is just like at its best. It's so good. There are some really hard-hitting scenes in this film to do with the ocean and the humans just destroying the planet. Obviously, it's a reflection of what's going on in our planet right now, and for me as a person, I really care a lot about the planet and animals. So for me, it was like difficult in certain scenes because it really does like put the effort in to make you feel sad about our planet, and especially obviously the creatures and the planet of Pandora. It did a really good job at putting a message across about saving the oceans and being more compassionate to animals and stuff. And yeah, there is some really impactful scenes in this movie that I did appreciate. The humans are back for a specific thing. In the first film, it's very similar. They're there for that, is it unobtainium? I can't remember how you say it, but that rock, that mineral that the humans are trying to like mine and source, and they're destroying the planet for it. The humans are back doing the similar things, but in a different way. There is a new thing that the humans are there for, and I don't know how I feel about that. It felt like it just didn't. It felt like they just sort of mentioned it once, and it was a bit of a throwaway thing, and then they never sort of explored it again. I imagine in the future films are going to explore that a lot more. I hope that they do, but it felt like this huge reason as to why the humans are even there and doing the things they're doing wasn't really a main part of the story. It was just thrown in there just to sort of make sense as to what the humans were really there for. And yeah, again, I would have appreciated if they spent more time sort of explaining that again. The underwater parts of this film are just, honestly, they're amazing. They're amazing. I just cannot believe that the cast had to learn how to free dive, and they all had to learn how to hold their breath for, I mean, majority of them held their breath for at least 5 minutes. I think Kate Winslet's got the world record of 7 minutes. Well, I don't know if it's a world record, but she beat Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise did 6 minutes something in Mission Impossible, the last one, and Kate Winslet did 7 minutes 15 seconds or 45 seconds in this one, which is like mental. And the fact that they're having to act underwater in motion capture suits, and they're having to like skydive, they're having to free dive down to 30 meters. But when you scuba dive or free dive, you can't just come and swim back up because the pressure is it's dangerous for you. So you have to be able to like equalize as you go up. So they would have to go down to 30 meters and they would have to stay there for ages. And after watching a lot of videos of the cast talking about this, they would hold the breath for like 5 minutes, and then they would have scuba diving teams around them with pure oxygen, 100% oxygen, which I think we breathe in maybe 30-40% oxygen or something like this. This oxygen tank is giving them 100% oxygen, so they would stay down there, you'd do the scene, and then the scuba divers would come over, give them an oxygen mask, and they could breathe pure oxygen for a couple of minutes, and then they go back into doing the scene again, holding the breath for another 5 minutes. So they're not just down there for 5 minutes, they're there for ages, and then they have to equalize when they come back up. So this is just such an impressive thing that these actors and actresses have learned, and for them to be able to pull off these amazing performances underwater. Because when you're watching this film, you have to realize that these underwater scenes are actually filmed underwater. It's not just like CGI'd, made up characters doing stuff. They really are underwater doing these scenes. It is so impressive, and I just feel like this film deserves so much credit. Besides whether you think it's a good story or whatever, this film deserves so much credit and praise just for all the effort and time being spent into creating this film. Everywhere you look, you can just see so much detail and talent. There's so much talent on every single bit of it. It really is. It's just so impressive, and it blew me away. Like, this film really did blow me away. So to sort of sum this up, I genuinely thought that this was one of the best films I've seen, definitely this year, and it's up there with some of my favourite films ever, I would say. It's not as good as the first, I don't think, but the first just has a really special place in my heart, because I just feel like it was just such a beautiful love story, and just the whole introduction to the world of Pandora. It was so new. It was just, we'd never seen anything like that before. I do feel like the original film has a stronger story, but I do think that this is an amazing sequel for it. It probably did beat my expectations, really. I mean, I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't think that was going to be this sort of blown away by it, and the fact that I've been spending every day thinking about it, I can't stop thinking about it, and I felt like that the first time, and no other film does that. And another thing I'll mention as well as quickly is that I feel so happy that the film is doing so well. It's already made over $1 billion in the first 10 days or 14 days or something, and that's just amazing, because no film really does that anymore. I know Tom Maverick, I know Top Gun Maverick made $1 billion, but I don't know how long that was over. But I mean, if Avatar's already made $1 billion within the first 2 weeks, I've been trying to book tickets for the IMAX and I cannot get a ticket. Well, I've managed to get a third ticket now, but I couldn't get one for ages because it's sold out every night for the next week. So I have to go next week, and still it was sold out, but I managed to get 2 seats. So that just shows you how many people are going to see this, and I couldn't be more happy for the whole team behind making this movie, and the actors and James Cameron, because they really are doing something different, and it's so unique. And to have that alongside all these superhero movies, which I'm just so bored of now. Even Star Wars, I'm not that interested in anymore. They've just milked it, and it's just the same shit all the time. I feel like Avatar is now becoming its own thing, its own franchise. We're going to get loads more films. I expect probably more spin-offs and stuff like that. And yeah, I just couldn't be more happy for it. I think it deserves it so much. So yeah. So for me, if I was to give this film a rating, I would give it a 9 out of 10. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, please hit the like button. That'd be amazing for me. And please let me know down in the comments, have you seen this film yet? What did you think? Did you prefer it to the first? Did you not? What did you like? What didn't you like? I would love to know all your thoughts down below in the comments section. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.